The galaxy was a loud place. Every species with the ability to travel between stars seemed to enjoy broadcasting their power to anyone who would listen. The Velthari Empire sent messages about their conquests across thousands of frequencies. The Draxan Consortium filled subspace with their trade demands. The Ethon hegemony loved to tell everyone about their amazing technology. But Earth was silent. For 300 years, humanity had not sent a single message to the galactic community. They had the technology. They had the capability. They simply chose not to speak. Captain Linda Morrison stood on the observation deck of a research station orbiting Neptune. She was a woman in her early 50s, with gray streaks in her brown hair and tired lines around her eyes. She had spent her entire life studying the aliens who ruled the galaxy, and what she had learned made her sad. "The Velthari are demanding tribute again," said Kevin Park, her young assistant. He was looking at his tablet with a frown on his face, this time from the Phoenix systems. Those poor people never hurt anyone. Linda did not turn from the window. The strong take from the weak. That is how the galaxy works. It has always been this way. Kevin walked over to stand beside her. "But why do we stay quiet? We could talk to them. We could try to change things." Linda finally looked at him. Her expression was hard to read. "The Council decided a long time ago that silence was our best protection." What Kevin did not understand was that humanity's silence was not about fear. It was about wisdom. When humans first discovered they were not alone in the universe, they did not rush to make contact. Instead, they watched. For 50 years, they observed the galaxy tear itself apart in endless wars. The United Earth. Council had come to a simple conclusion after all that watching. The galaxy was not ready for humanity, and humanity did not want to become like the aliens they saw, so they stayed quiet. They listened. They learned. And deep beneath the surface of Earth, they prepared for the day when silence would no longer be enough, 3,000 light-years away. High Commander Zoroth reviewed his plans for expanding the Velthari Empire. His species looked like giant insects, standing nearly 3 meters tall, with shiny black exoskeletons and large, compound eyes that could see things humans could not imagine. He was the most powerful military leader his people had ever produced, and he knew it. "What about the humans?" asked his intelligence officer. "They still send no messages. No military movements. Nothing." Zoroth made a clicking sound with his mandibles. Among his people, this was laughter. "Primitives. They probably discovered basic space travel and then destroyed themselves with internal fighting. Just another failed species. Should we send ships to investigate their system? Why waste resources on silence? There is nothing there worth taking." Zoroth waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Focus on the Draxan border. Their mining colonies are much more valuable." The intelligence officer bowed and left the room. Zoroth returned to his plans. He gave humanity no more thought. They were nothing. They had always been nothing. They would always be nothing. He could not have been more wrong. On Earth, life continued as it always had. Children went to school. People worked their jobs. Families gathered for meals and celebrations. From the outside, humanity looked like a peaceful species content with their small corner of the galaxy. But beneath that peaceful surface, something remarkable was happening in secret facilities hidden around the solar system. The brightest minds in human history worked on projects that would have shocked the galaxy. They studied every piece of alien technology they could find. They analyzed every battle ever fought between alien species. They developed weapons and defenses that went far beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Gregory Santos was in charge of these secret programs. He was a large man with broad shoulders and a face that rarely smiled. He had dedicated his entire life to one goal, making sure humanity would never be conquered. "How are the new ships coming along?" he asked Dr. Patricia Wong during one of their weekly meetings. Patricia was a small woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. She was a scientist who specialized in studying alien cultures, but she had become one of Gregory's most trusted advisors. "The fleet will be ready within the year. Faster-than-light capabilities that the Velthari cannot detect, weapons that can disable their shields in seconds. Everything we have learned in 300 years put into practice." Gregory nodded slowly. And the Prometheus array? Fully operational. We now have communication nodes spread across the entire galaxy, completely invisible to alien sensors. When the time comes, we can coordinate our forces across 10,000 light-years in real time. Gregory walked to the window of his underground office. There was no view, of course, but he looked anyway. Sometimes I wonder if we are doing the right thing, preparing for war while the galaxy thinks we are helpless. Patricia came to stand beside him. We are not preparing for war, Admiral. We are preparing to end wars. There is a difference, is there? I have spent my entire career studying these alien species, Patricia said softly. The Velthari, the Draxan, the Ethon. Do you know what they all have in common? Gregory shook his head. They see kindness as weakness. They see peace as an invitation to attack. They have created a galaxy where the only way to survive is to be more violent than your neighbor. Patricia's voice grew hard. We are not preparing to join that cycle. We are preparing to break it. Gregory was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to face her. And if we fail? If we become just like them? Patricia met his eyes without flinching. Then we will have betrayed everything humanity stands for. But I do not believe that will happen. We have watched the galaxy for 300 years. We have seen what cruelty leads to. We know better. I hope you are right, Gregory said. Because once we break our silence, there will be no going back. Far away, in a system the Velthari had marked for future conquest, a gentle species called the Fenari went about their peaceful lives. They were empaths, able to feel the emotions of others through a mental bond they all shared. They had no weapons. They had no military. They believed that kindness and love would protect them from harm. They were wrong. The Velthari were coming, and when they arrived, they would show no mercy. But the Fenari did not know this. They lived their simple lives, caring for their families, creating beautiful art, sharing their emotions with each other in waves of warmth and joy. They looked up at the stars and saw only wonder. They did not know that somewhere in the galaxy, a silent species was watching over them. They did not know that humanity had been preparing for this moment for 300 years. They did not know that their cries for help, when they finally came, would be heard. The galaxy had ignored humanity's silence for too long. Soon, it would learn to regret that mistake. 20 years passed since Captain Linda Morrison first explained humanity's silence to her young assistant. The galaxy continued its brutal dance of conquest and suffering. Empires rose and fell. Species were enslaved or destroyed. The strong continued to prey upon the weak, and humanity continued to watch, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. In a facility that did not exist on any official map, Admiral Gregory Santos stood before the most powerful gathering of humans ever assembled. Military commanders, scientists, politicians, and intelligence officers filled the underground auditorium. The air was thick with tension. Ladies and gentlemen, Gregory began, his deep voice echoing off the stone walls. The time has come to discuss Operation Awakening. A massive holographic display flickered to life behind him. It showed a map of the known galaxy, with different colors marking different territories. Red zones showed aggressive species like the Velthari. Yellow zones showed neutral or declining civilizations. Green zones showed areas of relative peace. There was very little green. For 320 years, we have maintained our silence, Gregory continued. In that time, we have observed over 400 interstellar wars. We have documented the complete extinction of 32 intelligent species. We have watched empires commit unspeakable crimes while doing nothing to stop them. He paused, letting the weight of those numbers sink into his audience. Some have called our approach cowardly. Others have called it wise. History will judge us however it sees fit, but one thing is certain. We have not been wasting our time. The display changed, revealing designs that made several scientists gasp out loud. Ships of incredible beauty and power appeared on the screen, weapons that could bend space itself, defense systems that could stop entire fleets. The Prometheus array, Gregory announced, a network of faster-than-light communication stations positioned throughout the galaxy over the past century. completely invisible to alien technology, capable of coordinating military operations across 10,000 light-years instantly. Each one more impressive than the last. We have built all of this in secret. And we have done it for one reason, to make sure that when humanity finally speaks, the galaxy will have no choice but to listen. Dr. Patricia Wong sat in the front row, her heart beating fast. She had helped design many of these systems. She understood their power better than almost anyone. But she also understood the responsibility that came with that power. "Admiral," she spoke up, her voice steady despite her nervousness. "What, exactly, do we plan to say when we break our silence?" Gregory turned to look at her. There was something like respect in his eyes. "That depends on what happens next, Doctor. Our intelligence suggests the Velthari are planning their largest military campaign in centuries. They are going to attack the Outer Rim territories." Patricia felt her stomach drop. The Outer Rim is home to dozens of peaceful species. The Fenari, the crystalline singers of Thalos, the dream weavers of Andoria. None of them have ever harmed anyone. "Which is exactly why the Velthari want to conquer them," Gregory replied. "In their eyes, peace is weakness, and weakness is an invitation." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. Patricia thought about all the species she had studied over the years. The Fenari, who communicated through shared emotions and had never known violence. The crystalline singers, beings of pure light and sound, who created music so beautiful it could make listeners weep. The dream weavers, who could share their imaginations with others and brought joy to everyone they met. All of them were about to be destroyed. "When will the Velthari attack?" she asked quietly. "Our best estimate is 3 months." Patricia closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, there was something new in her expression. Something hard and determined. "Then we have 3 months to decide what kind of species humanity wants to be." The meeting continued for several more hours. Plans were discussed. Strategies were debated. Some argued for immediate intervention. Others counseled patience. In the end, a decision was reached. Humanity would wait. They would watch. And when the Velthari made their move, humanity would respond, far from Earth. The Velthari war machine was already in motion. High Commander Zoroth stood on the bridge of his flagship, a massive vessel called the Destroyer of Worlds. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at their stations, preparing for the greatest military campaign in their species' history. "All fleets are in position," reported Admiral Kreth, Zoroth's second-in-command. "We are ready to begin the Outer Rim campaign on your order." Zoroth's compound eyes gleamed with anticipation. "Excellent. We will start with the Fenari homeworld. They have no defenses, no military, no way to resist. Their conquest will be swift and complete. Some of the council members have questioned why we are targeting such a weak species first," Kreth said carefully. "They say there is no glory in defeating an enemy that cannot fight back." Zoroth turned to face his admiral. "Glory is not our objective. Resources are. The Fenari homeworld is rich in rare minerals. Their population will make excellent slaves, and their destruction will send a message to every other weak species in the Outer Rim. Resistance is futile." Kreth bowed his head. "As you command, High Commander." The Velthari fleet prepared for war. The Fenari went about their peaceful lives, unaware of the danger approaching them. In their largest city, a young Fenari named Gentle Heart was teaching children how to share their emotions with each other. "Feel the love in your heart," she instructed, her mental voice warm and soothing. "Now, let it flow outward, like ripples in a pond. Let everyone around you feel what you feel." Children tried, and the room filled with waves of innocent joy and affection. Gentle Heart smiled. Moments like this made her life meaningful. Her mate's strong soul was waiting for her when she finished teaching. He was a gentle being, tall and graceful, with a kindness in his mind that had attracted her from the moment they met. "The elders are worried," he told her, through their mental bond. "There are rumors of large ships gathering beyond our system. Ships that do not belong to any species we know." Gentle Heart felt a flicker of concern, but she pushed it away. "We have never harmed anyone. Why would anyone want to hurt us?" Strong Soul had no answer. He simply held her close, sharing his love and his fear in equal measure. Neither of them knew that the Velthary fleet was less than 1 month away. Neither of them knew that their peaceful world was about to be turned into a graveyard. Neither of them knew that their desperate cries for help would reach ears they never knew existed. But someone was watching. Someone was listening. And when the time came, someone would answer. On a small human monitoring station at the edge of explored space, a young communications officer named Ashley Price was working the night shift. It was usually quiet work, just watching data streams and logging routine transmissions. Tonight was different. "Commander Burke," she called out, her voice tight with tension. "You need to see this." Commander Daniel Burke hurried over to her station. He was a veteran officer with decades of experience, but what Ashley showed him made his face go pale. "Those are Velthary fleet movements," he said. "Hundreds of ships, all heading toward the outer rim." "Toward the Fenari system," Ashley confirmed. "At their current speed, they will arrive in less than 30 days. Daniel stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he turned to Ashley with grim determination in his eyes. "Get me Admiral Santos. Priority 1. Tell him the moment we have been preparing for is finally here." Ashley nodded and began transmitting. Across the galaxy, in secret facilities and hidden bases, humanity began to wake up. 300 years of silence was about to end. The Fenari homeworld was burning. Fire rained from the sky as Velthary warships unleashed their weapons on the peaceful planet below. Cities that had stood for thousands of years crumbled to dust in minutes. Gardens that had been tended by countless generations were scorched to nothing. The screams of the dying filled the air. High Commander Zorath watched from the bridge of his flagship with deep satisfaction. The conquest was going exactly as planned. The Fenari had no way to defend themselves. Their pleas for mercy were ignored. Their attempts to flee were stopped by Velthary interceptors that destroyed every evacuation ship that tried to leave the atmosphere. "Resistance is minimal," reported Admiral Kreth. "Most of the population is trying to escape. Our interceptors are destroying their ships before they can reach orbit," Gazorth replied. "Leave no witnesses. I want this system cleaned and ready for colonization within 3 days. Out." On the surface of the planet, the horror was beyond description. Gentle Heart knelt in the ruins of her classroom, holding her dying mate in her arms. Strong Soul had been trying to protect the children when the Velthary soldiers found them. He had stepped forward with his hands raised in peace, trying to show he meant no harm. They had shot him anyway. The children were gone now, scattered or taken or worse. Gentle Heart did not know what had happened to them. All she knew was the agony of feeling her mate's life slipping away through their empathic bond. Why? She whispered to him through their mental connection. Her voice was broken with grief. "We never hurt anyone. We never wanted to hurt anyone. Why are they doing this to us?" Strong Soul had no answer. His mind was growing dim, his emotions fading like a candle in the wind. The last thing he sent her was a wave of pure love, warm and strong, despite the pain. Then he was gone. Gentle Heart screamed. It was not a sound from her throat, but a cry from her very soul. Her anguish rippled outward through the empathic network that connected all Fenari, touching every member of her species across the planet. They felt her grief, her despair, her broken heart, and they added their own pain to hers. The collective sorrow of an entire, dying species surged through subspace like a tidal wave. It was not a radio signal or a message in any traditional sense. It was pure emotion, raw and overwhelming, crying out to the universe for help. On a small human monitoring station at the edge of the solar system, Communications Officer Ashley Price suddenly grabbed her head and gasped in pain. "What is it?" demanded Commander Daniel Burke, rushing to her side. "I do not know how to explain this." Ashley's hands were shaking. "I am receiving some kind of transmission, but it is not like anything I have ever seen. It is not electromagnetic. It is not subspace. It is something else entirely." She routed the signal through the station's systems, and for a moment, everyone in the room felt it. A wave of grief so powerful it brought tears to their eyes. A desperate plea for help from beings they had never met, facing a horror they could barely imagine. Daniel's face went pale. Get me Admiral Santos. Now, priority 1. Tell him the Fenari are dying and someone needs to answer. The emergency session of the United Earths Council lasted 3 hours. Arguments raged back and forth. Some leaders wanted to wait for more information. Others demanded immediate action. The debate grew heated as the clock continued to tick. Finally, Admiral Gregory Santos stood up and silenced the room. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, his voice heavy with the weight of the moment, we have spent 300 years preparing for this day. We have built ships that can appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. We have developed weapons that can disable any fleet we have encountered. We have created a communication network that allows us to coordinate across thousands of light years. He paused, looking around at the gathered leaders. The question is not whether we can help the Fenari. The question is whether we are willing to accept the consequences of breaking our silence. Once we act, the galaxy will know we exist. They will know we have been watching. They will know we have power they never suspected. Patricia Huang spoke up from her seat. And if we do nothing? What are the consequences of that? Gregory met her eyes. Then an innocent species dies, and we WI. I'll have to live with the knowledge that we could have saved them and chose not to. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would speak. The message was simple. It was broadcast on every frequency, through every subspace channel, using technology that no species in the galaxy could detect or understand. It reached every corner of known space at exactly the same moment. 3 words that would change everything. We are coming. High Commander Zoroth received the transmission while watching the final destruction of the largest Fenari city. At first, he did not understand what he was hearing. His translators confirmed the origin, the silent system. The empty corner of the galaxy, the species that had never mattered. What is this? He demanded. Some kind of joke? Unknown, High Commander, his communications officer replied nervously. But we cannot determine how they achieved simultaneous broadcast across the entire galaxy. Our technology cannot do this. Before Zoroth could respond, alarms began blaring across the bridge. High Commander. Admiral Kreth's voice was tight with fear. Ships are appearing out of nowhere. Hundreds of them. All around our fleet? Zoroth stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Dark ships were materializing from empty space, surrounding his armada in a perfect sphere. They moved with impossible precision, their formations so exact they seemed almost unreal. Where did they come from? Zorath shouted. How did they get here without us detecting them? No one had an answer. A new transmission came through, audio only. The voice was calm and measured, speaking perfect Velthari, as if the speaker had been practicing for centuries. This is Admiral Gregory Santos of the United Earth Fleet. You have attacked a peaceful species without cause. You have killed innocent beings who never threatened you. You have committed genocide against those who only wanted to live in peace. A long pause. You made a mistake. Zoroth found his voice. You dare threaten the Velthari Empire? We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have destroyed civilizations that thought themselves powerful. You are nothing but a primitive species from a forgotten corner of the galaxy. The human voice did not change. It remained calm, almost sad. For 300 years, we have watched your empire. We have studied your tactics. We have analyzed your weapons. We have learned everything about how you fight and why you win. Another pause. And we have prepared accordingly. The tactical display showed the human ships taking up attack positions. Zoroth noticed something strange. His weapon systems could not lock onto them. His sensors could barely track them. It was as if they existed only partially in normal space. You have one chance, the human continued. Withdraw your forces from this system. Release any Fenari prisoners you have taken. Leave this world in peace. If you do these things, we will allow your fleet to depart unharmed. Zoroth's mandibles clicked in rage. No one had ever spoken to the Velthari this way. No one had ever dared. And if I refuse? The calm voice finally showed a hint of emotion. It was not anger. It was sorrow. Then I am sorry for what comes next. Zoroth did not hesitate. He had never retreated from any battle. He would not start now. All ships, attack. Destroy these primitives and show them the price of challenging the Velthari Empire. The Velthari fleet opened fire, and humanity answered. The battle lasted 47 minutes. Military historians across the galaxy would later call it the most one-sided engagement in recorded history. The Velthari had numbers, experience, and centuries of accumulated military power. They had conquered 1,000 worlds and destroyed countless enemies. It did not matter. Admiral Gregory Santos watched from the command deck of the battleship Horizon as his fleet took apart the Velthari armada with surgical precision. Human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts, striking from unexpected angles before vanishing again. Velthari weapons fired at empty space while human missiles found their targets with perfect accuracy.
Admiral,
Reported Commander Maria Delgado, his tactical officer. Enemy casualties are approaching 40%. Their fleet formation is breaking apart. Gregory nodded grimly. Continue targeting their weapon systems and engines. Disable. Do not destroy. I want as many of them alive as possible. Maria looked at him with surprise. Sir, after what they did to the Fenari? We are not here for revenge, Commander. We are here to send a message. And the message will be stronger if their High Commander lives to tell the tale. The human fleet had been designed specifically to counter everything the Velthari could throw at them. For 300 years, human scientists had studied alien technology and warfare. They had found weaknesses in Velthari shields that the Velthari themselves did not know existed. They had developed weapons that could slip through defenses and disable ships without destroying them. Most importantly, they had learned to fight differently. The Velthari fought with overwhelming force. They charged at their enemies in massive formations, relying on numbers and firepower to crush any opposition. It had always worked before. The humans fought with precision. Each ship knew exactly where to be and when to be there. They struck at weak points, avoided strong ones, and never stayed in one place long enough to be targeted. They moved like a single organism. Thousands of ships acting as one. High Commander Zorath watched his fleet crumble with growing horror. Our shields are useless against their weapons. Admiral Krath reported, his voice shaking. Our targeting systems cannot track their ships. We are firing blind. Zorath could not believe what he was seeing. His flagship shuddered as another human missile struck its engines. Warning lights flashed across every console. Smoke filled the bridge. This is impossible, he whispered. They were supposed to be primitives. They were supposed to be nothing. High Commander, one of his officers called out, we are receiving damage reports from across the fleet. 60% of our ships are disabled or destroyed. The rest are attempting to retreat, but the humans have us surrounded. Zorath looked at his tactical display one last time. The human fleet formed a perfect sphere around his crippled armada. There was no escape. No hope. No chance of victory. For the first time in his long military career, High Commander Zorath understood what it felt like to be powerless. A final transmission came through from the human flagship. High Commander Zorath, Admiral Santos said, his voice still calm. Your fleet is defeated. Your weapons are destroyed. You have no way to continue fighting. I am offering you one last chance to surrender. If you accept, your surviving crew members will be treated fairly and return to your space once this is over. If you refuse, I will be forced to destroy what remains of your forces. Zorath's claws gripped the arms of his command chair so hard, they left marks in the metal. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to fight. To die with honor rather than accept defeat from these impossible enemies. But he was not the only one on this ship. Thousands of his people looked to him for guidance. They had followed him into battle, trusting that he would lead them to victory. He had failed them. I accept your terms, Zorath said, the words burning in his throat like acid. The Velthari fleet surrenders. The human ships held their positions as Velthari weapons powered down across the battlefield. Medical vessels emerged from the human formation and began moving toward the most heavily damaged alien ships. Offering assistance to the wounded, Admiral Santos turned to his crew. Begin rescue operations. I want every survivor, Velthari and Fenari alike, given medical attention, and get me a shuttle. I need to speak with the High Commander in person. 30 minutes later, Gregory Santos walked onto the bridge of the Vel-3 flagship. He was flanked by 4 human soldiers in advanced combat armor, but he had ordered them to keep their weapons lowered. This was not about showing force. The battle had already done that. High Commander Zoreth rose from his command chair to face the human. Up close, Gregory was surprised by how vulnerable the alien looked. Despite his massive size and frightening appearance, Zoreth seemed almost broken. "You defeated my fleet in less than an hour," Zoreth said. His voice was hollow. "You appeared from nowhere with ships we could not track and weapons we could not stop. How? How is this possible?" Gregory looked around the damaged bridge, taking in the terrified alien officers and the smoke still drifting through the air. "For 300 years, your empire broadcast everything to the galaxy," he explained quietly. "Your tactics, your fleet movements, your weapon specifications. You announced your every move to anyone who was listening." He stepped closer to Zoreth. "You were listening. We analyzed everything. We learned everything. And while you were busy showing the galaxy how powerful you were, we were figuring out exactly how to stop you." Zoreth's compound eyes blinked in confusion. "But why wait so long? If you had this power, why did you not use it before?" "You could have challenged us years ago." Gregory's expression grew sad. "Because we did not want to. We hoped we would never have to. We watched the galaxy and hoped that someday someone would realize there is a better way to exist. That conquest and cruelty only lead to more suffering. That true strength comes from building things, not destroying them." He turned to look out the viewport. In the distance, the Fenari homeworld still burned. Smoke rose from its surface like wounds that would never fully heal. "But you've proved that hope was wrong," Gregory continued. "Today, you destroyed an innocent species simply because you could. And that means humanity cannot stay silent anymore." Within the hour, a new message went out across the galaxy. This time, it was longer. This is Admiral Gregory Santos, speaking on behalf of the United Earth Council. "For centuries, we have watched your wars. We have witnessed your cruelty. We have seen the strong destroy the weak without consequence. Today, that changes. The Vel-3 Empire has been defeated. Their fleet is in ruins. Their high commander is our prisoner. But this is not the beginning of human conquest. We have no desire to rule over anyone. From this moment forward, we will protect those who cannot protect themselves. To the peaceful species of this galaxy, you are no longer alone. To those who would harm the innocent, we are watching. We have always been watching, and we will not be silent anymore." Across the galaxy, countless species heard the message and trembled. Some with fear, some with hope, some with both. The universe had changed forever. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Fenari. The galaxy was a different place now. The Vel-3 Empire had collapsed as its subject species rose up against their weakened masters. The Draxan Consortium had quietly begun closing its slave markets, unwilling to test humanity's promise of protection. The Ethon hegemony, once so proud of their technological superiority, requested diplomatic relations with Earth. Dr. Patricia Huang stood at the center of a great hall on a neutral world called Sanctuary. Around her sat representatives from dozens of species. Some had tentacles, some had wings. Some appeared as floating patterns of colored light. All of them were watching her with expressions she had spent a lifetime learning to understand. This was the first meeting of the new Galactic Council, an organization that would have been impossible just 1 year ago. "We do not claim to have all the answers," Patricia said, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. "Humanity has made terrible mistakes in our own history. We have been cruel and selfish and short-sighted. But we have also learned from those mistakes. We have learned that working together is stronger than fighting alone. We have learned that different types of people can live in peace if they choose to." She paused, looking around at the incredible variety of life forms gathered before her. "For 300 years, we listened to the galaxy's pain. We heard the cries of the conquered and the laughter of the conquerors. We witnessed species disappear forever, destroyed by those stronger than themselves. And we chose to wait because we believed that getting involved would only make things worse. Patricia's voice grew softer, more personal. Maybe we were right to wait. Maybe we were wrong. That debate will continue for generations. But one thing is certain, we are here now. Not as conquerors, not as saviors. Just as partners. We offer our technology, our resources, and our protection to any species that wants to live in peace. And we promise that no one will ever be silenced again. The hall erupted in sounds of approval from 100 different species, each expressing agreement in their own unique way. Far from the council hall, Admiral Gregory Santos sat alone in his quarters aboard the Horizon. A glass of whiskey rested untouched on his desk. He was watching a recording of Patricia's speech, but his mind was elsewhere. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called. Commander Maria Delgado entered, carrying 2 glasses. "I thought you might want company, Admiral. It has been a long year." Gregory smiled tiredly and accepted one of the glasses. "Thank you, Maria. Some days it feels like 10 years. Maria sat across from him, her expression thoughtful. "Do you think we did the right thing? Breaking our silence?" Gregory considered the question for a long moment. He thought about the Fenari. So many of them lost before humanity could arrive. He thought about the battles they had fought since then, the tyrants they had stopped, the innocent lives they had saved. "I think we did what we had to do," he finally replied. "The galaxy was dying, Maria. Species were disappearing every decade. If we had waited any longer, there might not have been anyone left worth saving. But now, we are responsible for all of them," Maria pointed out. "Every peaceful species that looks to us for protection, every conflict we are expected to resolve. That is a heavy weight to carry." "It is," Gregory agreed. "But it is a weight we chose to pick up. And I would rather carry this burden than live with the guilt of doing nothing while innocents died." Maria raised her glass. "To humanity, then, and to whatever comes next." Gregory touched his glass to hers. To whatever comes next. On a distant world called New Hope, a young Fenari named Bright Hope looked up at the stars. She was one of the survivors of the attack on her homeworld, rescued by human ships that had arrived too late to save most of her people. But in time to save some, she would never forget the humans who found her. She had been hiding in the ruins of her school, shaking with fear and grief. A human soldier had discovered her there. Instead of hurting her or ignoring her, he had knelt down and spoken softly. Even though she could not understand his words, through her empathic abilities, she had felt what he was feeling, deep sadness for what had happened to her people, burning anger at those responsible, and a fierce determination to make sure it never happened again. That soldier's name was Christopher Lane. He had stayed with her during the long journey to safety, learning to communicate with her through simple gestures and shared emotions. When she was assigned to the refugee settlement on New Hope, he had requested a transfer so he could continue helping her adjust to her new life. Now, 1 year later, Bright Hope was part of a new community. Survivors from a dozen different species lived together on New Hope, united by their shared experiences and their hope for a better future. Her communicator chimed with an incoming message. Bright Hope came a familiar voice. It was Katie Sullivan, a human teacher who had become one of her closest friends. "The memorial ceremony is starting. Are you coming?" Bright Hope looked at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, the remains of her homeworld drifted in space, a silent reminder of everything her people had lost. But here, on this new world, something beautiful was growing. "Yes," she replied, her voice steady. "I am coming." She walked toward the lights of the settlement, where hundreds of beings from across the galaxy were gathering to remember those they had lost and celebrate what they were building together. The ceremony was simple but moving. Representatives from each species shared memories of their lost homes and loved ones. Then they spoke about their hopes for the future, about the communities they were creating and the friendships they were forming. When it was Bright Hope's turn to speak, she stepped forward nervously. Public speaking had always been difficult for her. But this message was too important to keep inside. My people believed that kindness would protect us. She said, her empathic abilities carrying her emotions to everyone present. We were wrong about that. Kindness alone was not enough. But we were not wrong about the value of kindness itself. What I have found here, among all of you, proves that. She looked around at the gathered beings, at humans and aliens standing together in the soft evening light. The galaxy ignored humanity's silence for 300 years. In that time, so many suffered and so many died. But when humanity finally spoke, they did not speak words of conquest or revenge. They spoke words of protection and hope. They offered their strength not to rule over others, but to help others stand on their own. Bright Hope's voice grew stronger. This is what the galaxy needed. Not another empire seeking power, but a species willing to use their power for something good. I do not know what the future holds. None of us do. But I know that we do not have to face it alone anymore. Ash! She felt the emotions of the crowd washing over her. Hope, gratitude, determination. The same feelings she carried in her own heart. The silence is over, Bright Hope concluded, and I believe the best is yet to come. The ceremony ended with music created by the crystalline singers. Beings of pure light who had also been saved from destruction by human ships. Their songs filled the night air with beauty that transcended language. Touching every heart present, Admiral Gregory Santos was not there in person, but he watched the recording later that night aboard the Horizon. When Bright Hope finished speaking, he found himself wiping tears from his eyes. 300 years of silence. 300 years of watching and waiting and preparing, all leading to this moment, to this new beginning. The galaxy had ignored humanity's silence. They had dismissed humans as primitives, as a species too weak to matter. They had been wrong. Now the galaxy was learning what humanity had always known, that true strength was not measured in weapons or conquests, but in the choice to protect those who could not protect themselves. The stars stretched endlessly in every direction, full of wonders yet to be discovered and challenges yet to be faced. Humanity would meet them all, not alone, but together with the countless species who now looked to Earth. For Hope, the silence was truly over, and the galaxy would never forget.